Hi, welcome to another episode of STL. I'm Scott.
Ryan, or Bass.
And I'm Ryan, just Ryan.
So, today we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. We wanted to look at some of the crowd-funded stuff, the stuff that's on Indiegogo, Kickstarter, so on and so forth, all the big crowd-funded websites. The first thing that we really wanted to look at, because we honestly don't really have any personal stuff updates, but the first thing that we wanted to look at was a product produced by a company called Ord. And they're based out of Canada. They're a 3D printer. They're a hardware manufacturer. So what they do is they actually make 3D printers.
Is Ord the basis for OrdBot?
I don't know for sure.
You don't know.
I'm not 100%.
We can look that up eventually.
So they have a Kickstarter that's going right now for, they were looking for about $25,000 for a 5-nozzle machine, which is crazy because it's
5 nozzles is nuts.
Yeah, 5 different filaments, different types of filaments, different nozzle sizes. That'll be a real interesting. I don't know if it's going to be a game changer, but I think it's definitely going to change.
I think it's a gimmick right now.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. Yeah,
like I can think. I want red, blue, green PLA, and then ABS, so I can use a material I can dissolve in acetone, and then maybe a different color ABS.
Or hips even,
or
nylon or something.
I haven't messed with hips or nylon.
One of the points of their Kickstarter is that their machine will be able to do excuse me, that's a different machine.
Yeah. Different head.
Different head, yes. One of the points of the machine, though, is that it's going to be reasonably priced in comparison to a lot of the machines that are already out there. If you look at something like the MakerBot Replicator 2X or the Ultimaker, or even some of those kind of sort of high-end machines that are for the consumer market, they're going to run between $2,400, $2,500 and $3,000. But then as soon as you get into the higher-end stuff, like the SLS machines, which is selective laser sintering, those are going to start you at around $15,000 to $20,000 starting. And then from there, the price just goes bonkers. Whereas with their machine, you're looking at around $2,100, $2,200 for the base machine with all 5 nozzles. If you want less nozzles, it's cheaper. Yeah. Which is actually pretty cool. And actually, I will correct that for U.S. pricing because for your Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, it's going to be about $2,500 for Looney, and then about $2,400 for U.S. But it's a really cool machine, and they do have it for sale on their Kickstarter right now. They're up to batch number 3, which is going to be shipping sometime next year, which looks like around January.
Yeah. That's not bad.
No.
Quick.
Under duress. So it's cool to see something like that. If you look at something like what Rich Rap, another guy who did a lot of the Mendel stuff, was doing, he had a direct drive system, whereas this one, they're going from direct drive to a Bowden system, so that they're not going to have 5 motors cluster-fucking each other on top of a couple of rods. And so that they can actually feed all the filaments in, and if they wanted to, they could use a larger nozzle diameter to do infill, which in turn will lower the amount of time that you need to do prints. But if you look at, like I was saying, for Rich Rap, he had...
he's got crazy stuff. Yeah,
he has some crazy stuff, but he had a direct drive with only 1 nozzle, and it was 3 different filament types that were all being fed in at the same time.
And they're mixing.
Yeah, so he was doing active color mixing through filament instead of trying to do it through some kind of pigment or trying to do it through a laser method like some of the HP machines actually use. And Hewlett-Packard does make laser sintering and UV cure resin machines.
Did they buy someone out, or is that just their
I think
stuff?
It's one that they've been doing for a while because the form factor is similar to their plotters.
Okay.
So I think it's something that they've been doing for a while. It's just you don't hear about them because they're so goddamn expensive.
Yeah. No, I'd like to be able to afford them.
Did they have to use a special nozzle, stainless?
For the Ord or for HPs?
Well, no, for the ones that actually mixes all the colors.
No, he actually just machined it out of brass.
Oh, very cool.
So he's actually got a couple. Rich Rap has a couple of videos up of his triple color nozzle, and he just went to his metal lathe and he just machined the thing out. So it's got 3 different drill points so that it can have all 3 filaments coming into a larger chamber.
So you've tried making your own hot end.
Yes.
Do you think you could do that?
I think with a little bit more practice I could, and if I changed the way it's set up and I made it two parts, I think I could do it. Because that would be the trick, is making sure that you have 3 filaments coming in, but then you still have a consistent sized chamber that they all feed into, so that you're not going to have too much backflow. Because if you do have backflow, that's when you're going to start getting issues.
Or if you have an improperly centered chamber, that would mean that the colors would mix wrong anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal as long as you got some mixing. You can fix it in software.
Yeah, and there's going to be a bit of a delay on the color mixing that you do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Ord, it's going to be an interesting machine to kind of follow and see how they progress. Especially since it's an open machine and there's no real chamber. So that if you're going to be doing multiple materials and they're all going to cool at different speeds because they're different materials, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of warpage issues and how they're going to correct for that.
Plywood box.
Yeah, plywood box would work, but if you're going to if you're trying to market it as a more professional machine, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach that.
Do you think they'd actually have to do active chamber control rather than just a passive box?
I mean, a passive box will work, but with the way that their machine's designed, there is no box. It's an open, it's a very simple design.
A lot of the temperature control is going to be handled by the heated bed anyway, because it's a huge platform being heated at a certain temp. So it's going to happen it's going to keep it at the level.
Yeah. Okay. It's also one of the things that they say is that they're using a thinner sheet of aluminum for this version of their machine. Mm-hmm. So then their build platform is going to be lighter, which will take care of some of that backlash issues that they were having.
Yeah, I was just looking at that
with their heavier.
A lot like my Prusa.
Yeah.
Right, where it's got the X moving on the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which causes some issues, unlike his gantry system in his Ultimaker.
Right.
Yeah. So because they're going to have that lighter bed on there, that'll allow them to correct for some of the issues with backlash and for some of any of the warpage issues that they might have coming from the heat coming from the bed.
Yeah.
So I imagine the only issue they're going to have is needing a bigger power supply for a same size printer.
Probably, but it depends on how the power is regulated, and also that you only need a very small charge to lock a motor for a stepper. So like you can lock a stepper motor with a 9 volt.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean it's more of the power draw has always been.
The power supply is not a big deal. You get a ATX power supply and jam it in. Hey, it's done.
Yeah,
it's been like that for a while.
Yeah, and they're getting better and better, especially as far as efficiency. Mm-hmm. But if you want a super efficient machine, you get rid of the heated bed, and you only run 1, maybe 2 materials.
Yeah, the heated bed platform is nice though.
Yeah,
it cuts a lot of the issues out. Though you're fine with yours right now.
Yeah, but I'm only running PLA.
Yeah.
If I was going to try and run something that needed actually a heated chamber, a heated bed, that's when I would start running into issues with warp.
Chamber that big, that'd be interesting.
Again, you use the heated build platform as your heat source.
Yeah,
right. Fine.
Okay, so
I'm done.
So aside from having random Nerf dots shot at us, the other thing that we wanted to talk about was custom 3D printed miniatures from
Proxy War.
From another Kickstarter campaign called Proxy War. It's one that actually looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. It's actually you were the one who's kind of researching this one.
Well, I wanted to do something like this, and then I looked at the economy of scale of 3D printing, and it's nowhere near where I want it to be. I don't think you can get the printing cheap enough. You'd want to do a casting or injection mold rather than a print. Even with this material that they're using, I think they're probably just doing like colored sandstone or other stuff, because that's a cheap material to have colored, and it comes out of machine colored. You're fine. Yeah, I would rather go injection molding or resin casting if you're really looking at it.
I mean, you could do that, but at the same time, you could also print your molds, or if you had a decent sized machine, because we're talking miniatures, we're not talking large scale stuff. You can do the same thing where it's the chicken cooker all over again. Set it and forget it, and you run a batch of miniatures through, and you're going to be able to get 20 miniatures on one decent sized build plate.
But you're looking at a $50,000 machine where I could do a injection mold setup. I could order an injection mold setup for about the cost of that machine, but I could get the parts out in no time rather than waiting for a print to come up.
But at the same time, if this is going to be a 3D printed thing, and it's going to be put up somewhere so you actually would just buy the models, download them, and print them, then that's going to be different, so that you're paying one cost to print as many as you want. So that's the other way that...
well, if you're doing it personally, then yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing it personally, that's going to change, whereas if you're trying to do it from a production standpoint, because I don't know. I think that
I know that we don't have a printer that can do that right now.
they can
We're
do full
looking at the
color
models
like
right
this.
now. Not the model complexity even.
Yeah, not that kind of detail.
I think you could get a lot of this actually. It just depends on what the actual scale is. Because I will openly admit, I haven't researched this particular one enough.
Well, you see the little
There's a guy and he's full of all sorts of details, and it looks awesome.
Some of
think
these
you're
are
gonna
probably
get that
added
printer.
afterwards by the actual modeler, like this is grass.
Well, that's wargaming stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
which you do anyway.
Right.
And you can actually tell with a lot of them too, like they actually look hand painted as opposed to anything else. Like, a lot of those models do look hand painted, so I think that's a
Which
real
is a
difference.
standard.
I mean, it's colored sandstone.
Yeah.
They're saying that in the prompt.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that you could do full production runs with a 3D printer and have it actually be profitable, as opposed to actually trying to do any kind of full injection molding. And in the past, this has actually been quite reversed, where I'm all for injection molding and doing one-offs so that you can actually make the molds off of them.
That reminds me of an interesting thing, a video I watched. Some guys, I can't remember which college it was, I can probably Google it and find it, but they were doing injection molding by, I think, doing ABS molds with injecting PLA. That's probably wrong. Oh no, it wasn't PLA, it was some rubbery plastic, I can't think what it is on top of my head. But they were using a printer to print the mold, jam it in the injection molder, and just doing it rather than going to a machine shop and getting the blank machined out. And you can get some interesting little things that
Was
you
it a
can't
push
get with the
mold?
machine. Sorry?
Was it like a push mold or?
Yeah, it's injection. So you jam it in the machine, nozzle goes in there, the machine pushes it all into it, and then you come out with it. They were developing impellers for, I think, fans. I'm not 100% sure.
STL is filmed in front of a live and armed audience.
Yes.
Yeah, he hasn't hit us yet. I think
Go
that's
ahead.
mostly the gun's fault.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize I was trying to hit you.
No, that's intentional.
Okay, so he's just nice.
Yeah.
I don't know why you question these things.
But yeah, I mean, again, you could probably get a decent CNC shop for the cost of the printer that they're using to get that, not including materials, and start making injection molds in your garage and doing the stuff yourself.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy at first, but once you got it going, you'd have a neat little prototyping facility to do whatever you want.
It'd be interesting though to see, like, the last episode we were talking about the mantis mill. If you took something like that and you were actually carving out the A and B sides of your mold in something like hydrostone, so it's going to be a little bit tougher than plaster, but at the same time it's going to give you some pretty high detail to do any of your castings with.
Could you clean up a, I'm trying to think of the word, a metal cast? So like you do a burnout of like PLA or wax, and then clean it up enough where you think you can do a decent mold out of it?
I think it's possible, but at the same time, if you're gonna print it, you can get a rubberized material that you could even paint on as your molding material. If it's going to be good enough to actually do the pulls for a mold. And even with a lot of the stuff that companies like Smooth-On offer, you'll be able to get molds that'll be able to take that kind of heat. And they offer products like that. So it's not going to be tough to find that. So, I mean, industrial manufacturing methods, especially on a small scale, they're going to vary just all kinds of all over the place.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know.
It's not a large enough scale to
Might
actually have the differences be really blatant.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
He's aiming for you. But
No,
not
it's-
you.
Even for our stuff. Yeah.
Double barrel or double fisting
Nerf
Mavericks
Yes.
that have been modified to be crappy.
Yes.
Yeah,
I do know that there are a lot of 3D printed miniatures on Thingiverse and some of the other
And shapeways.
Shapeways and a lot of those websites. So it'll be interesting to see too how they compare to those, because even just looking at these pieces here, they're going to be multiple parts.
Yeah.
And I think that you could actually print them pretty easily.
Well, the idea is that they're supposed to be modular, so that you're like,
Yeah.
well, this guy has a +5 staff of kicking ass. And, well, that costs too many points, so I'm going to get the puny bitch staff, and
We're going to
It's
add the
going to-
steel toe bits to the staff so that it can be the steel toe staff kicking ass.
well,
Puny staff
you
of
switch
stuff.
it out so you can actually
Yeah.
play the character rather than have it be too expensive to actually do anything with.
Yeah.
So it's a whole wargaming thing where it's awesome. Like, I know a lot of the guys doing Warhammer will take it and cut off the backpack and add jump jets with magnets. So you can put the backpack on, and it's like, oh, that's this miniature now. Or you put the backpack on, it's this miniature, and it can do this now, which is really cool, and I like that. But I would totally build that into that if I was doing it. I've
Sure.
tried to develop this, but I just haven't had the time.
Yeah. Well, time is always the enemy.
Time and
Um,
money.
yeah.
In mind.
You know, pick replacer 3D printer.
Shutting my printer down.
What machine is that? There is a machine that is on the market right now that you can switch out the heads on it, so that you can actually
Oh.
do pick and
something.
place. You can do CNC or you can do 3D printing.
So it's another multi-purpose all-in-one machine.
Yeah, there's a couple of them out there. I remember when I was at the Maker Faire in New York this year, I did see a couple of them, but there weren't a lot of them.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do because you're trying to do 3 different operations all in one machine, so you really need the software that's able to do it.
Tuning 3D printing's hard enough.
Yeah.
Tuning a CNC router's hard enough. Tuning a lathe is hard enough.
Tuning a pick and play machine.
Yeah, you're just combining all those problems into one device, and some of those devices do have similar functions, but you're going to keep running into different problems.
See, I think that
That's your multi-head kick-ass thing.
Well, yeah, well, there's a DeltaBot mod that I can't remember who posted it. It was on one of the RepRap blogs, and it would sit there and pick up a head, play with it, and then drop the head back up and pick up another head and do stuff, which is cool. But I don't think he was actually doing anything functional with it.
I do know when I was out in New York and when I was getting feedback on my giant 3D printer, one of the things that somebody had suggested was doing hot swapping for nozzles, so that you would actually have I can't think of the word for it. You would actually have a place where all the nozzles would actually sit in that was
Oh, yeah.
heated.
A tool
So
rest.
then, yeah, basically a tool rest that the machine would come over, pick up a different size head, go through, do your infill, come back over, drop that head, pick up a new one, and then go through and do your outer layers. Which I thought about it for about half a second, then I was like, no, that's kind of asinine because you could just do multiple heads.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's what you're almost better off doing.
at this point, you want to get one thing working well,
Exactly.
and then move on.
Yeah. And I think that part of that too is well, I come from an industrial design background that I did for about 10, 15 years. And so this is what I was thinking, and I was just like,
They're used to different things.
well, the guy was already a douche nozzle. So
I was going to ask you, but we probably shouldn't say it.
no, I'm not going to tell you what company he was with.
I know what company it is, though.
Yeah, but the guy was already kind of a douche anyway. But I mean, I'm always willing to listen to criticism, even if it comes from sources I don't want to hear it from,
Well,
because sometimes they have some of the best ideas.
yeah, some of the biggest assholes have the best ideas.
Exactly, which is terrible. But you know,
Well,
oh,
'cause
deserve
they're-
beer and hell.
That's how
They have no filter on this sucks and this is why it sucks. That's good. We'll listen to that.
Yeah.
Just saying this sucks, we don't care.
Exactly. But I don't know. As far as
There's no
manufacturing,
guarantee we listen anyway.
yeah,
Oh yeah, no, that. But I mean, I'm more likely to listen if you add reasons.
yeah. But in going back to what we were saying for the manufacturing in terms of for Proxy War, I think it's possible to do a large scale batch of pieces that are 3D printed. But the problem is that you're going to need a large enough machine that it's going to be good on time.
Yeah,
And I think it's possible, but it's tough.
yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just I don't think in our current environment it's not worth doing. There's other ways. There's better avenues to do it, and I'd rather go down those avenues and get a product out, and then come back and have like research in the background doing the 3D printing stuff. Because if I'm doing a game Kickstarter, I want that Kickstarter out now because I want to play with my game. That's just me.
Yeah, and I do know that Kickstarter seems like they're kind of lax too on how long it takes for you to actually get stuff out.
Yeah.
They say 30 days, and even when we were talking with...
Well, 30 days is just for funding, right?
No.
It's you get 30 days after the funding to get your product out, and with what a lot of people are starting to do is they're starting to specify when stuff will actually be out. If it's going to be past that 30-day mark, when past that 30-day mark they're going to be at.
Gotcha.
And with some of the stuff too, they're even like, well, we have suppliers, we have this, we have that, we have this, and we know what the lead times are, we know what our issues are going to be. Here's our product, here's exactly when it's going to come out, and it'll still be wrong.
Yeah.
And it's because that's the kind of stuff that'll happen.
That's systems engineering right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you look at a lot of the products that are out on the market now, it's like they're done and ready to be shipped months before the actual release date.
Yeah.
And it's that buffer time.
You can get either an Xbox One now or a PS4 now, but they're not releasing for a couple months, I think.
Exactly.
I don't know.
And like they're done, and all they're doing is they're doing final testing on them, just in case they have to release a software update for as soon as they go live.
Day one, you're going to get a patch on either box.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. But unless you guys have anything else to add on either of these topics,
Well, we can always argue about it, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from now. We're good.
yeah. So again, thank you for joining us in this shortened version of STL. My name is Scott.
Ryan or Bass?
I'm just Ryan.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night. Subscribe.
Please.
Yeah, sure. Subscribe.